Hey, New Hope family, it's Pastor Matt with your devotional thought for today. If you've been joining us on Sunday mornings, whether online or here in person, hopefully you've had an opportunity to see the banners that are on our walls right now. Now, these banners get replaced during different seasons to celebrate different things, and they look a little different from time to time. But right now, what we've had over the last few weeks and what we will continue to have for some time moving ahead is two banners, one that says, "Created to Worship," and the one that's behind me right now that you can see that says "Living to Glorify Him." And the Him being Jesus, being our great God. We want to live for His glory. Now, these serve as reminders for us when we gather together on Sunday mornings that is our purpose. We're gathering to worship Him. We've been created for that purpose, to worship Him. And we also want to live to glorify Him. But these shouldn't just be reminders for us on Sunday mornings. Hopefully, we remember that this is the reality for us in every circumstance, in every environment, that we are created to worship our God and that our lives are to be for His glory, are to be lived onto His glory. And with that said, I wanted to share a passage today out of the book of James that is part of how we can bring glory to our God, how we can display His glory to a watching world. And here's what James says in chapter 4. "What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you?" Jesus is very clear that one of the markers of His disciples is that we have a deep and sincere love for one another. And we see the call throughout the New Testament to be humble. We ought to humble ourselves and to think of others as more highly than ourselves. Those kind of thoughts constantly happening. And yet, when we find that we're in conflict with someone else, or there's some sort of infighting taking place in our churches or in our families, whatever it might be, more often than not, our first instinct is to say, man, they really screwed this up. There's something wrong with that person or those people because they are in the wrong and I'm clearly in the right. Or I started in the right, I'm mostly right, maybe I'm a little to blame, but mostly it's on them. And I think one of the first things we need to do is respond in a way that's genuinely humble and say, no, maybe that's not the case. Maybe the reality is that the reason there's fighting and that I'm a part of the problem instead of part of the solution is because there's passions, there's desires in my own heart that are unmet, that are not honoring to the Lord, or that I'm taking these passions and desires that may not be bad desires, but I'm making them demands of other people, whatever it might be. So we have to guard our own hearts. We have to look first inwardly before we want to blame others for the problems. And if we could start there, brothers and sisters, if we could start there and recognize, the reason why there's fighting is because of my own unmet expectations, because of the things in my heart that are not honoring to the Lord, that I have elevated my desires, my preferences, my pleasures above what is best for the body, above the unity that I'm called to display in the body of Christ. And so I want to encourage and challenge you, just as the Lord's been really moving in my heart this week in consideration of this very thing. When conflicts arise, we need to look first at ourselves and recognize that we're still broken sinners who are being made more like Christ. But yes, we need to remember that we still have that brokenness, just as Paul talks about in Romans 7. And we have to first go before Him and say, Lord, search my heart, reveal where the brokenness lies in me, and forgive me. Forgive me for elevating my own desires, my own expectations above what You have called me to show for love towards one another.